So spontaneity comes with discipline. Spontaneity comes with practice. Not by not learning anything, not doing anything, and just telling yourself, I just want to be. If I had to talk to someone, I used to think about it for 100 times in my mind, and I used to sweat, palpitate, shiver, and the conversation never happened. If I started to practice, meditate, I overcame my PTSD. If I'm able to overcome my challenges, I'll make sure that I'll master this skill of helping other people overcoming their challenges. I dropped out of my college. Everyone was against it. Now impacting over 25,000 people across the globe through my speeches and seminars, workshops. Lie down on my deathbed and reflect back and think that, oh, there were so many things which I could have done, for which I had competence, potential, and passion, but I didn't do it just because I was too engaged in my own nonsense or baggage of the past, the conditioning, or thinking that what other people will think about me, how they'll judge me.
Namaskaram, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in to this podcast. Today we have Jay Kabir. He's an author, a poet, a TED speaker, an artist, and so many more things. It's such an honor and pleasure to have you on here today, as you have spent quite a sufficient time at the monastery at an ashram in India. But you also have a background, a history of going through mental trauma during very young age, and you also were diagnosed with PTSD. And looking at you now, what you're doing, you are at a very, very different place. And so I want to know more about your story and what brought you to where you are right now. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for such a wonderful and warm introduction. And I really appreciate your research, and I'm really excited to share my journey with you. So, uh, what do you want to ask? Like, really, what are your questions?
First, I would love to know how the seeking spirituality came into your life.
Mhm.
Where was that point where whatever you were doing didn't seem enough?
Whatever I was doing, like since my childhood, I always felt that it is not enough, and there is something more to myself, and there is something more to life. Like I was never interested in making those repetitive projects and sitting in the class and writing those notes which everyone has written before me, and the same things you have to do and then write the exam. And I was more interested in something which makes me more alive, which makes me more passionate, which which makes me more aware of my own intensity. And I started to seek for it for, since a very long time. I was not very conscious that this is a spiritual path, or this is called the spiritual seeking, but still, that search for profoundness and search for a meaning in my life was always there. And that helped me to kind of resonate with people who were actually talking sense, rather than people who were just talking jobs, who were just talking uh, to go to college, get a job, get married. I always resonated people who were talking about life, who were talking about, I feel, the most important subject and the biggest phenomena, which is called life. So my journey started with, yes, going through challenges. As you mentioned, I was diagnosed with post traumatic disorder. But despite all these things, I always knew that beyond these challenges, there is something deep within me which wants to find its fullest expression. And I knew somewhere that if it finds its expression, if I find that path, if I find that environment, then I will have more power to overcome these situations. Though I was feeling stuck, but somewhere intuitively, I know that there is a place, there is a space which is beyond this and which can help me to transcend this and create a wonderful life for myself. So I was like, okay, what to do. And I started to read a lot of books, started to listen to a lot of mentors, a lot of life coaches, transformational experts. And though I was trapped, like in the same uh, college, same kind of conversations about money, and when I say about money, money is not bad. It's a good thing. It's a vehicle to create something wonderful and fantastic for other people. But if it is just for one's own ambition and one is not able to break that barrier, then it's a very limited life. So while I started to listen to this, I started to somewhere find my path. And one day I realized that, okay, I want to do something like this. This is my life's purpose. I want to impact people. I want to inspire people. I used to stutter. I used to stammer every single day till I was 23. I used to get in some way or the other humiliated, bullied, even sometimes bashed. And I had no self esteem, no self confidence. Like looking at a person, I could look into his eyes. If I had to talk to someone, I used to think about it for 100 times in my mind and start. I used to like sweat, palpitate, shiver, and the conversation never happened. Like I was in that state with this hope that one day I'll heal. And when I started to listen to those podcasts and listen to those speakers, I was like, if I'm able to overcome my challenges, I'll make sure that I'll master this skill of helping other people overcoming their challenges through my speaking and through my competence, and most importantly, through the way of my being. And I started to seek for it. Fortunately, I found Sadhguru, and I was like, this happens with everyone somewhere. I feel when you listen to him, the same perception is hidden deep within everyone. And what inspired me more about Sadhguru was he was not some saint sitting there in some isolated place and just talking about God and spirituality and look within. He was also talking about empowerment. He was also talking about finding solutions for the problems in the world. And I resonated with that the most, that if I want to solve the problem of the world, of people around me, and of myself, let me learn from the best. Let me learn from him. And I jumped into it. Like for me, I dropped out of my college. Everyone was against it. There was a darkness. It's like jumping into a dark well, jumping into a dark abyss, which is like endless. But when I took that risk of jumping into it, jumping into that dark abyss, I found all the colors of my life there. Like I went there, I surrendered myself, I started to practice, meditate, I overcame my PTSD, I overcame ADHD, and stuttering issues were over. I was actually talking to people, connecting with them, even got opportunity to share my transformation, share my wisdom of transformation and of healing with hundreds and thousands of people across the globe. And that somewhere emboldened me and empowered me to actually seek that path which I committed to a few years back. And everything started to fall in place. I don't know how. I still cannot believe that the journey has become so easy. I don't feel that I'm a very hardworking person, or sometimes just things happen miraculously with me, and which reassures that life is aligned. Somewhere there was some deep hidden intelligence, though I always thought that I'm stupid, and though I was always confused, and I still am confused, like very confused in life. At the same time, I know how to handle that confusion and chaos with calm and composure.
Hmm.
And because I'm confused, I ask a lot of questions. With those questions, the universe and people around me and the masters and the mentors give me right answers, or I seek or get those right answers and walk on my journey. And things have turned into like magic. Writing my book, becoming a multiple time TED speaker, now impacting over 25,000 people across the globe through my speeches and seminars, workshops, and now webinars in the new normal during the COVID times. So yeah, that's how the seeking started, and the seeking is on. It's not that it has ended just because I found the spiritual master or the right practice, or just because I met some like impactful people in the world. The seeking has become more intense. The more I meet these people, the more I interact with them. For example, when I interacted with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the seeking and the passion and the purpose became more strong, more established within me. And every time I get more clarity about it and about myself.
So it's, I mean, would you say that the most important thing that was with you from your childhood was that vision that you had, that at some point you will embody something that, because you were prescribed medicine for the PTSD, right? And people around you
Tonics,
were bullying you,
tonics and pills
and
and pills
everybody
and
was against you. So how did you came out of that hole? Was that just a vision that at some point you will, like, you were sure that you were able to heal, you're sure that you can come out of it?
Mhm. So yeah, very good question. Three, four things. One, despite all these things, I was, as you mentioned in the beginning, like I used to write good poems for which I got a lot of appreciation. I used to paint and naturally. So that made sure that I don't quit on life. Like that made me feel that I have something which adds some happiness in other people's lives, and I can do it more, and I can do good in my life. That was one hope. Second was, of course, vision to overcome this and do something great for myself and for the world. That was one thing. Third was role models. Like I was fortunate enough to realize that there are amazing people in the world who have gone through toughest of challenges, but only those people have made the biggest of impacts in the world. And I knew that if they can do it, I can do it as well.
Hmm.
I just need to equip myself with right tools and enhance myself with right skills and capabilities and competence and clarity, and things will happen. So that became the journey. And once I got established in that, it and that thing got established in my mind, my heart, and my being, I was like, okay, now no one can stop me, because I found a purpose for which I can die. And it's not a purpose which came out of just fake confidence, but a lot of seeking, a lot of searching, and being with the right people. So, yes, uh, a lot of people ask me that even in my programs, they're like, everyone is against me while I pursue my vision, what to do. We have sometimes we have to realize that we are humans and we get impacted by negative environment, right? Sometimes people play god and say that no matter what's happening around me, I don't get impacted, which is not true. Which is not true if someone is really honest with himself. Many people on the name of spirituality say that nothing matters, but it matters. It matters on a very subtle level. And because the proof of the fact that it matters is if you surround yourself with right people. For example, you got the mentor who at least had that conversation with you about your
Shoulder
hand not
pain.
functioning properly, and then he guided you towards the path of yoga. They told you about Sadhguru, they told you about meditation, they told you about like things which are happening in the world. If you didn't have that perspective, or if you didn't have that knowledge, then you will not be seeking this path. You wouldn't have come to India and you wouldn't have stayed in the ashram. So it's very important that we are surrounded by right people. What if you would have just met a mediocre person who made fun of your hand, or who made fun of you being like injured? It wouldn't have taken you on the path of spirituality. So maybe negative people around you, or people who doubt you, trust you, doubt you, don't trust you, the naysayers, maybe their presence doesn't matter. But the presence of people who support you, who trust in you, and who trust in your capabilities and potential, their presence really matter. And that's why people have become what they are. I feel human potential is like a seed, a potent seed. But if the seed is not in the right soil and doesn't get the right sunlight and doesn't get the right water, it is not going to blossom into a fruit bearing, flowering, and fragrant tree. So it is very important that we are in the right environment, we are surrounded by the right people. Yes, there were people in my life who were making fun of me, who were against me dropping out of college, going to ashram and things like that. But at the same time, I had people who inspired me. I had people who trusted in me. And most importantly, I had my spiritual masters, guides, and mentors who were already doing the things which I wanted to do. So in my mind, it's like it's possible. So 10 people are criticizing, but if you have even three people, two people who appreciate you and who support you, then those criticisms won't matter. And once you have the courage to walk this path, gradually you'll find millions of people who will be waiting for you to share your message, to elevate their life, and to support you in your journey.
Mm. Yes, when you're ready, when you're seeking, the master finds you.
True, true. And even Gautama the Buddha has said that like, when he says Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, the last phrase is Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Sangha means your environment. So without environment, there is even no liberation. Forget about success in the world. So it is very important that we are in the right environment. Our seed is in the right soil.
Mm. So talking about environment, I also got to know that you traveled also. So I would love to know your perspective on how traveling can change one's mindset, can change one's perspective.
Oh, beautiful. I think it doesn't change your perspective, it expands your
Mm.
perception.
Yes.
There's a difference between perspective and perception. Perspective is maybe you remove the old lens, but wear the new lens. Maybe you had a lens which was green in color and you were looking at the world and thinking that, okay, the world is green. Now you removed it, you changed your perspective, and now you have red glasses. And you're like, okay, the world is red. But perception is removing all the glasses and seeing the world and seeing yourself and knowing it the way it is. So travel actually brings you into the reality, your own reality and reality of the world, and how to navigate through the world. Because if you are in the world and if you have decided to be in the world, it is very important and necessary that you make this journey also into a wonderful journey, not a journey of escape, not a journey of incompetence, not being able to talk to people, or not being able to be effective in your work, in your career, in your relationships, or going through ups and downs or breakups and what happens in the world right now. If we learn some basic simple skills, which is very important and very easy, if we learn some basic tools, we can navigate through these situations very easily. And this is what travel does to you. First, what happened, like personal experience, when I started to travel, before I started to travel, let's start from there. Because I didn't have much exposure. I came from a very small town and never met a lot of people because I was a single child and my parents were like really overprotective. In India, when parents are overprotective, they don't even allow you to meet other people much or have more conversations with them or mingle with them or like even drive your bike or car. Nothing is allowed for you in most of the like so-called lower middle class families. So I didn't have any exposure and my world was limited, my mindset was limited, and I used to think that what I know is the only thing which is like the ultimate reality of the world. Everyone is like that. If I see someone like who behaves in a negative way, I'm like the world is negative. If I see someone like not respecting other people or making fun of other people or bullying someone, I'm like, okay, the world is like that, and that there is no one in the world who is good. So that was a very limited perspective. But at the age of 14, lucky for me, I realized that my reality is not the only reality, and I can change my reality, I can bend my reality, and that will only happen if I have more awareness, if I have an expanded consciousness and perception. So I committed that I'll travel. So since the age of 14, I'm on my own, traveling, studying, transforming myself, and helping people to transform their lives. So first thing which happened, I realized that I was wrong. I don't know a thing. Like there is a world which is way beyond my imagination and my capability to grasp the world. I met different kinds of people from different cultures, different religions, different geographies, different psychology, different mindset, different uh, positions in their lives, different situations in their lives. And that made my mind flexible. It's like now I can deal with other people's opinions. I can deal with other people's limitations. At the same time, knowing that even I have limitations. So that doesn't create any conflict between me and the other person. That was the first thing. When I was in the monastery, I was living in a dormitory where there are people from across the globe with different attitudes, different behaviors. Initially, I used to get surprised, like, okay, what is happening? But then ultimately, I reached a place where I cannot judge anyone because I know that no one can be like me, because that's the unconscious need of human beings to make sure that everything happens according to them, and everything happens the way they want it, and at the same time everyone must be the way they are. That's subconscious need of everyone to feel that security, but that's not going to happen. And uh, the sooner you realize it, the better human being you become, the more compassionate human being you become. So that was the first thing which happened, like the judgment about other people, opinions, and limited identifications started to dissolve in my mind. And that opened a totally new dimension of really understanding people, really understanding life. So yeah, travel has helped me in that way. It has also enhanced my creativity. It has given me an intuition to connect with people easily, because you're present there, you understand them, you don't look at them from a lens of your own conditioning, but see them for what they are, and you can connect with them. And what started to happen was, even when I was in the ashram, people started to feel it. I don't know, energetically or what, but they started to trust me and they started to share their journeys, their problems, and started to seek solutions for their problems. And I used to say a few things, I don't know how, intuitively. It used to come and it used to work for them. Like there was a guy in the ashram who was addicted to alcohol and tobacco, and I had a conversation with him for around 1.5 hours. And since then, like it has been 4 years now, and he has never touched any intoxicant in his life. So these kind of things were happening, which was again like reinforcing that trust that I have some gift which can change people's lives, which can help them to overcome their challenges. So, and somewhere because of that travel, like it has given me that understanding that how people think and how you can uplift them, how you can impact them in a positive and a pleasant and a powerful way. And by the way, one thing which travel gave me, communication. So as I mentioned earlier, I came from a very small town. I didn't even know English. It might be very difficult for you to believe. Today I'm a speaker and I talk with like thousands of people. So in my mind, I was like, okay, English is very important because, and you have to master it, because you can communicate, you can connect with people, you can impact them. And if you don't have that capability, then somewhere your life is getting limited, because you're not able to establish that connection with people. So in my mind, that was a very clear intention that I want to learn to communicate, to speak well. And what I did was just listen. Like people were talking, people from across the globe, I'm just listening, asking them questions. And how you learn language, like when you were a kid, you didn't know like what language your parents are talking. You were just playing, you were like uh, you didn't know nothing, but you're just listening, you were in that environment, you immerse yourself there, and suddenly you started to talk the same language which your parents were talking, right? Whether it's European, German, French. If you take a French kid and put him in India, he'll start to talk in Hindi, right? So I became that kid who doesn't know anything and whose mind is like a magnet, and I started to absorb the languages and absorb the behavioral pattern which is more effective, which is more aligned. And I chose to learn from the best and also be aware of what works in the world and what doesn't work. What kind of behavior, what kind of communication doesn't work or create chaos, and what kind of behavior and communication and presence creates harmony, creates impact. So, and somewhere that has empowered me to do what I do today. So travel has played the most important part, even more than meditation. Like meditation is a pillar of my life, but travel is another pillar.
Hmm. I love that because I mean there's even studies showing that if you travel, you outgrow your environment. You move out of your comforts. You move out of wherever you are right now, and maybe every day you wake up in this same bed. You do, like, you go and make your coffee, have your breakfast and everything, and suddenly you are in a completely different environment. And they say also that it really enhances your brain. New neurons are being connected, and your perception change, your awareness changes, because now you're somewhere where you have never been before. So you have to pay attention, because every moment something can happen that never happened
True.
before. So you're naturally, when you travel, you're just awake because you have never been there.
True. Because you're out of comfort zone. So for your like reptilian brain, somewhere
Mm.
it senses threat. And by traveling, you trick your reptilian brain and you become completely aware because one of my mentors, Robin Sharma, says it really well that you're most alive amidst danger because now you're aware. You're completely attentive to each and every situation and each and every person around you. And that gives you more energy to interact with the environment around you and ultimately become one with it. So you trick your reptilian brain and you enter your prefrontal cortex, which is your human, more evolved brain, which is responsible for empathy, compassion, and all the positive emotions.
So through your journey, you talked about spending 3 years at the ashram.
Mhm.
What I mean, after 3 years, did there was just a point where you were like, all right, I need to go out and I need to spread this to more people.
Mhm. So it was always there. Even when I entered the ashram, the vision was like to learn, to immerse myself in the environment, to learn from the mentor, to learn from the master, to learn from the best people in the world. So so traveling is very important. At the same time, choosing right people is also equally important on your journey because sometimes you might get lost on the journey. You might meet people who are like, while traveling initially I met people who were into drugs, and maybe I was lucky, I was little aware that this is not my path intuitively, but I see people who start to travel, meet those people and immerse themselves in that environment and
Mm.
then ultimately end up being drug addicts. So it is very important that you have the clarity of your longing, your seeking. What is your vision in life? What kind of human being do you want to become in next 5 years and 10 years? So that was the question which I asked myself when I was dropping out of my college. Where do I want to see myself in next 5 years in terms of every aspect of my life, like the balance? So I call this concept wheel of life, where there are few different areas of your life: your spirituality, your physical health, your emotional health, your relationships with your loved ones. Very important. If they are not in harmony, maybe you're sitting in the Himalayas, but one thought about that broken relationship and your energy will go down. Maybe you have meditated for 10 hours, but that one thought will enter and it will drain you. And I've seen this happening with a lot of people and spiritual seekers. So it is very important that we create a balance between these areas. Finances, very important. I see people, they want to run away from finances. They don't want to take responsibility of it. And they say that okay, I'm spiritual and I don't care about money and it's materialistic. They have somewhere divided and fragmented the world, and but they complain when there is a financial crisis in their life. They get stressed. If you're that free, then you must not get stressed. You should be able to live everywhere. But if you are getting stressed just because the government has raised the prices, it means that money is governing you. So either you want to get governed by it or you want to create a freedom where you have the power to govern your financial aspects rather than finance governing your emotions.
Mm.
So,
Yes, that's powerful.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
if you're sitting there meditating, but when you have to get something and you feel frustrated and flustered just because of lack of money, it means the first thing which you must do is settle that aspect of your life.
Mm. Yeah, every time when I talk to people about this topic, I feel like there is this belief, limited belief that was planted into our minds as a at an early age. Money's not growing on the trees.
Yeah.
You
Rich
have to
people
work
have
hard. Yeah, you have to work hard to make money, and all these beliefs that are there. And now, coming into the spiritual path, there are these other beliefs which say, money is the evil. You don't need it at all. You can live without it. But
your spiritual journey and things like that. Okay, if that's true, then a beggar must be the most enlightened and spiritual person.
well,
And
the kings in India have turned beggars, right?
no, I'm
But they
talking
had the
about the
spirit.
contemporary current situation.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm not talking about the people who chose it consciously. I'm talking about it, like India is going through poverty, like extreme
Mm,
poverty. So they are suffering hunger. Will you teach them meditation or will you
mm.
empower them to make their food?
Yes, absolutely true. Yeah, yeah.
So it's important that we settle these aspects within us first, and only then, when you'll meditate, it won't consume your energy. So yeah, I was always aware that I have to balance this wheel of life, because it's like, if you see a wheel, it has certain spokes, right? There's a center and then there are spokes. Now if you break those spokes, even one or two spokes are broken, how will the wheel run? It will run with a lot of friction, right? The same is happening with life. These are the spokes: your finances, your health, your relationship with your loved ones, your romantic partner, your spirituality. These are different spokes. And even if one is broken, other get affected. So it's very important to create that balance so that the life becomes effective and like works with least friction. So that was a very clear vision for me. And I always sought that. And I saw this, like people were confused. There's a book by Brian Tracy called Goals, where he says, don't follow the followers, follow the leader. And I saw that the biggest spiritual masters, they are enjoying material freedom. They are enjoying the bliss of that as well. Even if you see Sadhguru, he doesn't uh, wear dirty clothes. He wears like the most expensive clothes made of silk. He drives the most amazing and energy efficient cars. So, and he's absolutely unapologetic, and he's not guilty about it. He's doing what is needed to be done in the world, right? So it's not that you run behind it, but if it comes, you must not think that, oh, this is bad, and this is not going to take away your spirituality. A rich person goes to a master, it's not that his grace will be like master's grace on the rich person will be less, and a person who is suffering poverty, the grace will be more. No. If you have finances, you can make things easy. For example, you had money to buy the laptop, and I had money to buy my laptop, and that's why we are having this conversation. That's why different conversation, that's why our lives are enriched, and that's why you could move to ashram and you could experience the bliss of it. So it's a vehicle. It's not a means, definitely, but it's a vehicle, and vehicle must be efficient, and vehicle must be in abundance with you, not in lack, not in scarcity.
Yeah, that's why we have the Shakti meditation for
Yeah,
success. That's why we
yeah,
have Kalpa Vriksha
exactly.
meditation.
True, true. So yes, bigger goals are there. Like the ultimate goal is there,
Mm.
but reach there, you have to walk on the journey, and the more effective and the more graceful the journey is, it's beautiful for us. Like, and there's no need for unnecessary suffering when you can do the same things efficiently. So yeah, I was observing these things, learning how to create that balance. I observed Sanskriti kids, I observed homeschool kids, I had conversations with even them, because I was a learner. I was a seeker, yes, spiritual seeker, but at the same time, I was a learner of living life to its fullest, of making the best out of the 24 hours which I get, not in distraction, not in social media, but by doing something worthwhile, meaningful for myself and other people with absolute intensity and involvement and care and compassion. So I was observing Sanskriti kids, I was observing homeschool kids and how they spend their day, how things have become easy for them. They are not struggling with relationship issues, they are not struggling with financial issues, they have the right environment. People think that, okay, if I go through these pains, then my evolution will happen. No, that's not true. There is an example for you. A Sanskriti kid, he is not going through this drama at his during his early life. He is learning martial arts, he is learning music, He's learning Bharatnatyam, he's learning yoga, he's learning Sanskrit language, he's learning everything which is actually scientifically designed to evolve one's consciousness. So only if I'm free from these troubles, I'll be able to learn all these things. But if I say no, no, my spiritual path is of pain, then actually no evolution is going to happen, only pain is going to
Mm.
happen.
Yes,
So
yeah, I met some Sanskriti children, and even now, like after they are done, and they're just so inspiring people, like this.
so they have become inspiring because they were in a right environment where a
Yes,
lot of things were taken care of.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
they struggling with poverty or with disease or things like that. So it's a conscious choice of, for me, this is my personal spiritual path of taking care of situations in such a way that they enhance my spirituality, they empower me, not make me weak and then think that, okay, in this misery, I'm becoming spiritual.
Mm.
No. It's a misconception. And if we are doing this, then we are adding one more miserable person on the planet. So we are not doing anything good for the world.
Mm.
On the name of spirituality, we are going against the purpose of it.
So you talked about meeting you when you spent time at the ashram. Did you get the opportunity to? I mean, you said you interacted with the Sanskrit kids and everything. Was there any guidance that you received from Sadhguru
Yeah.
about your
So
path?
yeah. So many times, like I have had conversations with him about chemistry, about physics, about psychedelics, about, though I never did it, but just curious that it can help me
It's
with my
big. It's big right now. It's like
and yeah, so about psychedelics, about business, and the best guidance which I got from him was about business and enterprises. And he said that if you want to improve the situation of this planet and of your nation, then it is very important that whatever you do it successfully. You create successful enterprises in the world. Now a lot of people think that, again, we were discussing that money is bad and all this, but here Sadhguru himself is saying that if you want to make this nation better, create successful enterprises, make it a success. The world has chosen that model. Now if you are an entrepreneur or whatever you are doing, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are a podcaster, isn't it important that you do it well? Because when you do it well, it inspires other people, it impacts other people. At the same time, you feel good. If you are doing something in an unsuccessful and ineffective way, you won't feel good. Then your mind will create illusions like maybe this is God's will. Things like that. When people fail, they say all these things. Maybe this is God's will. Maybe this is my karma, which is getting cleansed. I've heard these things so many times. No, it is not God's will. It is not your karma. It is just one thing: not not being open to learn right skills and master them. It's as practical as that. So he said it very clearly that once you have chosen this path, do it well, make it a success, and build successful massive enterprises. So, and he said that, again, I asked him how to do it. First thing, environment, surround yourself with success, surround yourself with successful people, people who are doing the things which you want to do. And then,
the, I love that. That's so
yeah,
important. So
and
important.
educate yourself in leadership, educate yourself in impact, and that's how you make anything success.
Mm,
It's not
yes.
about it's not about like all those things. It's about you committing to it. Maybe there is karma, maybe there is prarabdha, but at least you do your purusharth. Purusharth means you do your action, you give your best to make it a success. So that was the best advice which I got. Get surrounded by right people, make it a success, and educate yourself, like learn skills. He also says that if you don't skill India, you kill India. And the same is true with, if you don't skill yourself, you kill your possibilities.
Mm.
Otherwise, what happens is, if you don't have the skills, if you don't have a path, if you don't have right people around you, you don't know what to do. And then either you sleep or get distracted, or you become lethargic, you become lazy, and then because of that laziness, because of that procrastination, you invite a lot of trouble, and then again you say, because I'm a spiritual person, this is happening to me and this is my karma. So you know, the mind forms or creates so many escapes to be in the same past, not enter into the novelty, not enter into the present, and not build a future. On the name of spirituality, the mind wants to remain in the same patterns of the past. So it is very important we break that. That's why I'm talking these things, because I hear these things a lot from my friends who like say that they are spiritual seekers, but sometimes misguide themselves.
Mm. How was leaving the ashram after being there for 3 years? What would you say? Um, I mean, you shared already a lot of things that shifted in within yourself. But what would you say when you came out was different than when you came in? Maybe a few points that were very
Yeah.
strong.
So it was not easy, because you're living in a monastery, you're living in mountains, and suddenly I came to like the biggest city in India, a big mega metro city called Mumbai, where there is a lot of traffic, a lot of noise. And I was like, my system was initially struggling with that, but then it was like, okay, now this is the time to practice what I have learned in the ashram. Otherwise, what's the point? If I'm not equanimous within myself, and if I just complain about situation around and people around, then what's the point of spending so many years? So let me be here and then start building things. And fortunately, with grace, with right guidance, with my own practices, energies, I started to again attract a lot of amazing people. What Sadhguru said, right? People, like, everything started to manifest in my life, and the journey started to move. So initially it was tough, but now I know that I came to a right place, and because I came here, I right now I feel that this world is the best place for your spiritual growth to happen. And for all kind of growth, your spiritual, emotional, psychological, physical, financial, every growth to happen, world is the place, not the mountain.
Yeah, I hear the Swami, a monk, say that actually the spiritual path outside the ashram is much more intense because you not just have to handle your practices, but you also have to handle the world. You have to handle the people. You have to handle the environment. You have to handle cooking, cleaning, money, finances, business, relationships, so many things.
Yeah, true. And it's like when a wave comes in an ocean, a person who is trained in surfing, for him it's a wonderful adventure ride. But for someone who is not trained, it's a death threat. So it's our choice. Life will give us those waves in forms of situations and circumstances. Now, are we trained surfers or are we miserable sufferers? It's our choice. So I feel that was the training in the ashram to deal with these waves and ride them, not like drown under them, but ride the waves like a pro.
Yeah.
And I'm
So
learning it. I'm on the path of mastering. Like at least the intention is to like master it.
And then another master that you came across your life, Dalai Lama, you spoke about. So how did that happen, and how maybe how was it different than being with Sadhguru?
Mhm. So no comparison, but I'll share my experience, because every master is different, every path is different. The presence, the core is the same, but the presence, the energies might be a little different. So I was like doing my workshops and programs. I was teaching in NGOs. I was helping victims of human trafficking overcome their traumas. I was working on the ground level, and people took notice of it. And I got a call that His Holiness the Dalai Lama is going to meet few people who are making a positive impact. Would you be willing? And I was like, the Dalai Lama wants to meet you, so why not? And have you seen that movie, 7 Years in Tibet, by Brad Pitt?
Oh, I think so. Yes, but long time ago.
Yeah, so it's a story of a man like who got lost in the Himalayas. Then he was imprisoned by the China, but then he found an escape, and then someone like came to him and said, "His Holiness the Dalai Lama wants to meet you."
Mm.
So like a similar kind of feeling. And when I see this trailer, I get tears in my eyes because I've experienced a similar thing in my life. So I went to Dharamshala and we entered the room, we shook hands, and we started the conversation. I shared about what I do, the workshops which I take, and oh my God, like the kind of uh, appreciation and acknowledgement which he gave, it healed all my wounds. You know, I faced a lot of criticism in my life while growing up from a lot of people. And suddenly, a Nobel laureate, a spiritual, one of the biggest spiritual masters in the world, tells you, looking into your eyes, like with the attention which they have, like with that emotion of compassion, he looks into your eyes and says, "Very good, very good, very good. I'm so happy that there are people like you thinking so open mindedly and doing such a good work." And I was just overwhelmed, like tears were flowing. And I was just looking into his eyes. I was like this. We both were looking into each other's eyes, like this. And I could actually feel the waves, like literally, I could feel the waves passing through me and tears were flowing and there was a big smile of bliss on my face, and he was also smiling, though he didn't have tears, but he was also smiling with the same intensity. And for like at least 1 minute we had this union, that eye contact, like this. And it just transformed everything about me. And that's why a lot of people, when they ask me how was it meeting with the Dalai Lama, I say he is not just a man, he's a wave of compassion. It's like a mountain of compassion, radiating waves. And if you just sit in that presence, it will just like make you go into that ecstasy. So it was just like the heart melted, you know, my heart melted. I
Wow.
cannot explain it
Beautiful
in,
experience. I think that's enough, you know. That's as far
yeah.
as words can go.
And that changed my life. That changed my work. Like that inspired me and gave me a bigger vision and gave me more power to actually fulfill that vision and that mission.
Mm.
So yeah.
So where did your book kick in? Like I saw that you have written a book, Monk Wisdom for the Modern Mind, and yeah, how did that happen?
So uh, so when I was traveling, living in the monastery, experiencing transformation and healing within myself, and meeting these spiritual masters, I used to get, or while I'm so these experience these experiences happen throughout the day, and then at the night I sit and meditate before sleeping. And the mind starts to create a lot of ideas. It starts to articulate the experience, or sometimes create something new, and it knows that it can help other people. People can feel it. And I just used to write these things in my journals. And then ultimately I thought that everything which I have written while living in the monastery, my own experiences, observing the world, understanding other people, let me just like uh, transform all those uh, texts into a book. And it will make sure that I reach more people and they have me in some way or the other. When like a lot of my students, they are like, whenever I'm feeling low, I open one page of that book and I read it, and it solves that situation which I'm going through. So I don't know how this happens, but yeah, that was the intention behind it, that it must solve the problem.
Mm. That's so powerful because I feel that there are a lot of people who think about doing like writing a book, who think about making music, who think about creating a business, but they never do it. But for you, it seems like you have a thought, you have a vision, and you just do it. You just go for it.
Yeah, you have to. Like, what is the other way? Because I don't want to lie down on my deathbed and reflect back and think that, oh, there were so many things which I could have done, for which I had competence, potential, and passion, but I didn't do it just because I was too engaged in my either my own nonsense or baggage of the past, the conditioning, or thinking that what other people will think about me, how they'll judge me, or just escaping in some philosophy, like, because that will be the biggest regret. While or I just wasted my time in social media and procrastination because of fear of other people, fear of opinions. So I don't want to experience that. I want to experience my death in such a way that I'm lying down there and I'm like, wow, what a life. I gave my best. I gave my best shot, and I expanded my best. Like I worked even on my best. So yeah, I want to make sure that that happens for myself and for everyone. At least that's my hope, wish, endeavor, and vision.
So I would love to talk a little bit about the connection between science and spirituality, as you said that you're digging into the research. You also went and talked on TED, um,
Mhm.
and so maybe some discoveries. I know you mentioned that there were studies with monks that they looked
Mhm.
at their brain waves, that they looked at how their general mood was and how the activity of the brain was. So maybe if you can speak about that.
Oh, so one of the biggest neuroscientists in the world, Dr. Richard Davidson, did this study. There have been many studies. Like it's not the only study, but this is the most famous study because uh, so Dr. Davidson did this after getting guided by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who is like his spiritual teacher as well. So he used to study the brains of people who are going through depression, anxiety, and all the negative emotions to understand why they actually go through it. And then there are other people who are resilient towards these negative emotions, even in the same situations. Like two different people face the same situations. One goes through that situation from a state of ease, and for other it creates a lot of panic, a lot of anxiety. So what might be the reason behind that? So he was studying their brains under his modern EEG scanners and neuroscientific tools. So the Dalai Lama gave him a wake up call by telling him that apart from this, why don't you study people who are going through equanimous states of bliss, compassion, kindness? So he was like, wow, that's a great idea. We never thought about it. And they flew monks from Tibet and Nepal in their laboratory in Wisconsin, and they put their scanners on their brains. And they found out that the brains of these monks were producing the gamma waves, highest levels of gamma waves ever recorded by science. Now, gamma waves are responsible for these emotions of compassion, emotional resilience, where you go through, you don't suppress it, but it's like a muscle. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. So for example, you used to practice in the gym, so how much did you lift? Like what was the maximum you could lift with ease?
Depending upon which practice, but
So for example,
with
this one.
with time, yes, it was like in the beginning you increase easily. In the beginning you make like fast improvements, and then with time it gets harder and harder and harder, and you at some point you're like stuck at one weight, but if you keep pushing you can go slowly up.
So what was the maximum which you could lift till the end?
Maybe 100 kg, 80 kg.
80 kg, 100 kg. And you could do it very easily because you train, you practice for maybe many years, 2 years, 3 years. So, and if someone gives you, now you can lift 80 kgs, and if someone gives you maybe 60 kgs. So for you, it will be very easy, right? It won't be that tough for you to lift 60 kgs because you can easily lift even 80 kgs. But if a person comes to the gym who has never lifted any weight, and if you give that person 60 kgs, it will be difficult for him
Mm.
because he has never trained in it. It might cause a lot of pain and sometimes even cause injury. The same is true with life. If you train your mental muscles, if you train yourself in joy, in happiness, in in compassion, then life will throw weights at you. Now it's the same. If you can lift 80, you can lift 60. But if you have never lifted any weight, you cannot lift even 20, and it will cause pain. So people say that Their job is a reason for their stress. Their relationship is a reason for their anxiety. Their finances is the reason for their misery. But that's not true. The reason is their underdeveloped muscles. They haven't trained it. They haven't unconsciously our humanity because of our education system and society, peer pressure, everything, we have got trained in feeling scared, we have got trained in anxiety, we have got trained in stress and so many negative emotions. But have we consciously taken charge of training ourselves in happiness? How many people can say that every single morning I make sure that I experience bliss for no reason? So we are not training it. So these gamma waves for these people, because they trained for so many years, like they were the athletes, they were meditating for 40 years. So now they were going through those situations from a constant state of equanimity, and that too very easily. Like, and that level of gamma wave, generally normal people, an average person produces that gamma wave just for flashes of seconds, that too throughout the day, that too when he's at the peaks of inspiration or happiness, like maybe 1 or 2 seconds. But these monks were able to do it for a very long period of time at their own will. So the muscles have become strong. Life will throw situations. Again, it's our choice whether we train the muscle. Few people think it's about suppression. No, it's not about suppression. When you can lift 80, you can lift 60. When you cannot lift anything, you cannot lift anything. It's as simple as that. So train in lifting 80.
This is where
And
the discipline comes in, right? To have a daily practice.
true, to have the daily practice. Then the same situations won't look tough to you. It will not cause pain. And you won't have to like go to psychiatrist or psychologist for smallest of things and like talk it out or things like that. It won't bother you. And it happens. It has happened with every person. Like every person somewhere has gone through situations in such a way that when they reflect back, they'll be like, wow, I was the same person who dealt with that situation with so much of ease. And the same person sometimes feels like really miserable for smallest of things. Why? Because the muscles deplete. When they are strong, you deal with the same things. But when they are in a depleted situation, it causes those things. And that depletion is caused by many reasons. Sometimes even diet, your lifestyle, your lack of discipline, lack of practice. So a lot of people say, no, I don't want to have discipline in my life. I want to be spontaneous. And these days, like modern like the new age spirituality, do things whenever you want to do it, let just be natural and things like that. So I have just one question for this. Do you play music?
Yes.
You play music, right? So there is a pattern to it, there is a rhythm to it, right? You have to play a certain note on a certain time, and only then you will be able to produce that harmony.
Hmm.
Now, while playing that music, if you say that, no, no, I don't want to play that note, I want to play whatever I want to play, will it create any harmony? Will
No.
it create any rhythm? No, right? So, even if you want to create a harmonious life, a rhythmic life, then you have to have that discipline. Now, spontaneity also comes with practice. Spontaneity comes with discipline. Michael Jackson was the best dancer in the world, and when he used to dance on the stage, people used to go in trance.
Hmm.
Osho said that he used to enter in samadhi states, and the people who were observing that used to experience samadhi states. So now that's the peak of spontaneity, right? But that spontaneity didn't come to him because he said, no, no, I want to be spontaneous and I'll do
Hmm.
whatever I want to do. That came because he practiced a million times to perform on that stage and perform in that state of spontaneity. So spontaneity comes with discipline, spontaneity comes with practice, not by not learning anything, not doing anything, and just telling yourself, I just want to be. That's stupidity. So that's the importance of daily practice.
Yes,
You're a
that's
musician, you understand, like because you have practiced this so many times that now when you play, sometimes some other energy takes you over and you feel that and you can play it so easily. But imagine if you never practice that song, how will you play that? How will you create that energy, that emotion, that impact? So that comes with practice and discipline. Same is true with life, same is true with yoga, same is true with meditation, same is true with success, same is true with everything in life.
Yes, yeah, that's a very important perspective, to not just have it like, okay, I need to be disciplined with my practice, I need to be disciplined with, certain aspects. No, there's like life. Everything is, you need to be disciplined because, again, as you said, even if you are not disciplined with your diet, you will feel different in your emotions, you will feel differently in your mind. So everything is, I mean, you don't have to be rigid. You don't have to be um, too
Actually, when
crazy.
there is discipline, you are actually more flexible.
Hmm.
That gives you the permission to be flexible. Otherwise, you don't have any choice. You're just like subjected to different situations and circumstances. But only when you're disciplined, you have the option of being flexible.
Hmm. That's true. So you're playing music also. I would love to. I mean, so I saw some of your poetry, and is that was something that was with you from your childhood as well? You were
Yeah.
just drawn to express yourself through music.
hmm Through mostly paintings when I was a kid. Then I got some good exposure of a lot of poets, and I realized that I was doing something which made sense to me and to like the people who were listening to it. So I started to write poetry, and then like I found interest in flute, and I started to play flute.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Wow, flute is powerful instrument. I mean, every instrument is powerful instrument, but flute is like instantly. I see India for me. I mean, also
Oh,
Native American
Native
shamans,
American
like
culture.
Native
Yeah.
American culture, they love the flutes. But these two, like India and the Native Americans, they instantly come into my mind when I hear flute.
Steve, have you ever thought that if you like go back to the primitive cultures, the African culture, the Native American culture, the Indian culture. Now, these native people never met each other, never had any discussion. But during the same time, in the same era, all of them created the similar instruments. Like all of them had flutes, or what is the reason behind it?
Yeah, the drums also. They all
Yeah,
use the drums, and they
yeah,
use drums in their ceremonies. Like in India, they use the drums with the puja. They use the bells and the drums, and the meditation. They use also drums. The Native American shamans they use the drums to go through like to make ceremonies and journeys. And then like in Africa also,
yeah.
and they
They have,
also they also do that
they have those. What are those instruments? Like, what is it called?
with
Like,
also with the air.
yeah.
Pan flute, I think, or I'm not sure.
Mhm.
Is it pan flute? I'm
Yeah,
not sure. Pan flute.
absolutely. So even the African cultures, the Native American cultures, like I don't know how did they share the technology of making it. Like I think it's
Mm.
just collective conscious, like
Yes,
the Akash
yes,
intelligence. You just know it. You just download it from the
yeah.
Akash.
When I went to visit the Native American shaman in he's from the Lakota tribe, which Sadhguru recently visited, and
Yeah.
they had like so what they use a lot is sage, you know.
Oh yeah.
So
I know.
they brush, like in India they use neem at
Yeah.
certain, I mean, yeah, ceremonies they use that people to clean it. So in the Native Americans they use sage, and they also burn sage to cleanse the space, to cleanse, wherever they are, and then around it is a red thread. So they work with colors, just like in India,
Yeah.
they work like we have the sutras, the red sutras.
Yeah.
In the same way, Native American people have like red threads, black threads, and they call it prayer ties.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like this, I went there and I was like, I know this, and I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's amazing. You have never met somebody from India, but you like have the same tools, you're using the same things, you have a different name for it, but basically it's the same.
True. True. Wow. Like it's amazing, right? Like how everything is connected. What Leonardo da Vinci said, everything is connected. And
Yeah,
there's a reason for these colors also. Like our brain responds to different colors in a different way. Like different neurological patterns are created when we are exposed to different colors. And the reason is like when we were evolving. So when we saw greenery, for example, we felt that we are going to get food, we are going to get nurtured, we are going to get nourished. So green makes us feel comfortable. When we saw blue, like again, that is giving us life because blue water was blue, and the ancient man used to like be in the nature, be in the forest and drink water. So blue makes us feel calm and peaceful. And then red. So two things. The red is the color of blood, and that time because we were hunters, blood, like it rushes that adrenaline within you. It makes you more intense. It makes you more passionate. So like there are theories like that, and they are quite logical. So
yeah, definitely. No, I mean, you can even feel it when you wear blue clothes, when you wear
yeah,
white clothes. That's why in India also a lot of people choose to wear white clothes on the spiritual path because they have experience when you wear white. And even in Europe, when you go on a wedding,
yeah,
what does the bride wear? She wears white.
what
And it's like obvious that you reflect everything. And let's say I talk to people who are going through crazy ups and downs, and the first thing that I ask them is, are you wearing a lot of black clothes? Are you wearing black all the time? And they're like, yes. And I tell them the first thing that you need to do is to start to wear white or some color, but not black. And when
yeah,
they do that, they notice the difference. Even if they
yeah,
are not exposed to spirituality, they notice the
true,
difference.
definitely. There's one more thing. If someone is wearing black, you will pay more attention to him as well. If you have observed that, because like again, the primitive man when he was in forest, black is the color of darkness. So when you are in darkness, you have to be naturally more attentive. So a lot of influencers today use this as psychology of influence. They wear black, if you observe,
Hmm.
so that naturally the listener or the observer will pay more attention to it. So the entire color therapy is there.
Yeah, it's all vibration, right? Colors, like when you look at colors, it's just waves. It's
True,
vibration. Sound is vibration.
true. Every form has a sound and a color to it. And
Yes.
like I got when I was getting initiated into Shambhavi and we have to do the fluttering, I could like, and the drums are getting played. First time in my life, like I could actually hear the drums and see the color of that particular note.
Mm.
My eyes are closed, but the color, which is of the same frequency of that sound, I could actually see it and the waveform as well.
That's powerful. That's
That was
powerful.
the first time I experienced that.
Wow, that's what I'm looking into actually. That's kind of my life path right now to go into sounds and frequencies to make use of sounds. I did some vocal remixes with Sadhguru's voice playing with some modern music,
Wow,
just
I've
just to expose people who are not, maybe they won't watch a video because they have a lot of ideas about, you know, somebody looks like this, so I shouldn't look to them. And in India, I feel there is a misconception about what a guru is, the
true.
word guru, there's a lot of just
Yeah,
conditioning there.
true.
So I don't
You know,
know, just
India, it's like a guru must be someone who talks like this and is completely disabled and just talks about God and doesn't do anything at all and lives naked in a small hut. And that is what a pure soul means. So, there are a lot of misconceptions. So you
so
have
trying to
to,
get this message out, trying to get people to understand that, or just to experience that this is not something that um, just people do who live in the mountains and the caves, but this is something that people who live on the street, who walk on the street, you can meet them, you can see them, you can, they're doing their, you know, they're living their life to its fullest.
True, true, true. Awesome.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful, wonderful podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And I must say this, and I'm not saying it just to say it. And I've never said this. I've done a lot of podcasts with a lot of people, but this was like one of the most, personally, one of the most interesting podcasts for me, where I felt like really connected, and I could, like, I wanted to share more and more. Like, so, and you created that environment and you created that energy. So thank you very much for that. And I really love your presence and like the stillness with which you listen. I watched some of your old videos, like some of the other podcasts, and I was like, I was looking forward to have this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so much, Steven. Um, Make it big, like have the best people and create the best impact, inspire the world, and you're going. I know that your Hatha teacher training. I wish the best for you during your 7 6 7 months of training, and just like make sure that you take those tools to the world, and you'll do great.
Thank you. Feel free to subscribe, like, and share, comment, and we will be very happy to have you join on more. Namaskar.